master's in 1973 in psychology with a specialization in human development and aging, and that was followed by a PhD. They normally have a master's and a PhD sequence.
And what school was that?
That was at the University of Southern California.
And so how would you describe what your specialty was?
I came into the field of aging because I was excited about the opportunities. It was a growing field at that time, and I would describe my activities as focused in on the biopsychosocial aspects of aging. I have my specializations in elder abuse, in the dementias, and several other areas, including violence.
And so how long have you worked in the field of aging?
I've worked in the field of aging since 1975, because I was at that time, I got my PhD, but I was also working full-time at the Brentwood Veterans Administration Center in LA on aging issues.
Could you walk me through what your various positions were before you got to USF?
The work I did at the Veterans Administration was a prelude to going off to the University of California, Los Angeles, to do some work with one of the professors there. And then I went on to the University of Washington in Seattle, where I went from an assistant to an associate professor in the Department of Psychiatry in their aging program. After that, I was recruited to the Albert Einstein College of Medicine and the Montefiore Medical Center, where I was awarded a professorship and continued to develop aging programs, get grants, and left Einstein to go.
Before we get there, you
Sure.
talked about developing aging programs and getting grants. What do you mean by that?
Fundamental to developing a program is to go to various funding sources, federal, state, and otherwise. The prestigious ones being the National Institutes of Health, the National Institutes of Mental Health. So it means writing grants. I was successful in getting them to set up a geriatric psychiatry program. In aging, I was successful in setting up at the University of Washington the very first training program for postdocs in psychology and in psychiatry. So the job you have when you come into a position is to actually develop the programs through grants and other sources. You also are responsible for developing educational programs for the various individuals and doing training on the outside with a wide range of professionals, from dentistry to pharmacy to medicine to almost any field, because aging is a multidisciplinary program.
And what do you mean by multidisciplinary program? What are the various disciplines within the umbrella of aging?
What makes aging an exciting and unique field is that it relies upon multiple perspectives. It's not like you're doing research in cancer or heart disease. Aging is accompanied by a series of biological and psychological and social and cultural changes. It is a field where you have to have a specialty, mine being psychology, but the field and the institutes that are around the country and the ones that I developed require bringing together a variety of medical professionals, bringing together everybody from public administrators to nursing to social work to pharmacy, so that the field requires a multidisciplinary, a multiple discipline approach, so that you can actually work with individuals who are changing in various ways.
Now, you said Albert Einstein. Where's the next place?
After Einstein, I was recruited to the University of Illinois at Chicago. I believe that was 1985. And there I was a professor in the College of Public Health. I was also deputy director of the university's Institute on Aging, and again had similar responsibilities to develop programming and do education. After UIC, I was recruited to come to USF to head up their Department of Aging and Mental Health.
And what year was that again?
I believe it was 1992.
And tell me, are you a member of any sort of professional associations that deal with aging?
Yes, many.
Okay. Tell us about
The American Psychological Association, which is a huge association of psychologists, has sections on aging and sections on law, neuropsychology, but I actually held some offices in that division which dealt with aging and human development.
What sort of offices did you hold?
I was in charge of, I was a member on their executive committee and was in charge of setting policy and programming for the division.
Okay, and what other professional associations?
The Gerontologic Society of America.
What's that?
It's again the premier gerontology aging society in this country. And it's composed again of multiple disciplines, from the biology of aging to the psychology of aging, the sociology, community, and public health issues. The other organizations include there are a range of them. I mean, the American Association of Suicidology. Older people have very, very high rates of suicide, and until recently were higher than even children and teenagers. There I was not only a board member, but I was their clinical director, again developing the association's mission to improve research, education, and training. I try to remember all the other associations. There are many of them. Might I request just a glass of water, please?
We get
Or-
some water, Jack. I think we-
Or should I get my bottle? Thank you.
Okay, what about this? The American College of Forensic Examiners Institute, American Board of Psychological Specialties, Diplomat in Medical Psychology.
Right, that's an organization that, again, has a wide range, a wide swath of professionals, from the microforensics to the macroforensics. And there I have presented at their meetings, have peer-reviewed papers for them for their journal. And again, it's with all of these organizations, the challenge is to be a professional leader in the field and develop programming.
Let's go over some honors and awards. Regional Award, Future Scientists of America, National Science Teachers of America, 1965. What's that one for?
That's from my very early years when I was first developing my scientific interest. And at that time, for that age group, was a nice feather in the cap.
Bausch and Lomb Science Award Medal.
That was a prestigious award for some work I was doing on the psychology of aging.
NINCHD Traineeship.
That's a precious commodity that people can get in the field that really pays your expenses for your graduate education. And at that time, like I said, aging was a growing field, and the government was investing a fair amount of money, and one way to get through graduate school was to be awarded one of these fellowships.
And do they just give them out to anybody that asks? How do you get that fellowship?
You have to go through a credentialed school like the University of Southern California and have letters of support from various individuals.
Honorable mention from the American Medical Writers Association for The Loss of Self, a Family Guide for Alzheimer's Disease, in the category of Best Trade Book. What's that about?
One of the critical issues as a leader in the field is not only to educate students, undergraduate, graduate students, and fellows, but also to play a role in public education. Our editor at the time had suggested that we compete for that award, and it was an honorable mention, but it was an indication that the book was making a difference.
Founders Award, Alzheimer's Association.
That's a favorite of mine. Back in the 80s, 8 different groups of professionals and families came together and established what was then the Alzheimer's Disease and Related Disorders Society under Gerald Stone. It later was changed to the Alzheimer's Disease Association, and the Founders Award was given in honor of being one of many professionals who worked to put that together. I also went on to help develop the International Alzheimer's Society.
Metropolitan Chicago's Healthcare Council Award for Healthcare Management, 1988. What's that?
That was an award where I was nominated for the community service that I was doing in Chicago on behalf of the university and the service to the community, the greater community, Chicago and Illinois.
1988 list 100 women shaping Chicago's future.
That was another award that the dean of my college had nominated me for, again, in recognition of going above and beyond the typical academic duties and being responsive to the needs of older people in the community.
Special citation, 39th Annual Progressive Architecture Awards, Design of Architectural Interventions in Daycare Settings for Older Persons.
That, again, is another special award. One of the disciplines I didn't mention in the field of aging is, in fact, environmental and architectural issues. Working with Stanley Tigerman, who's Dean of the College of Architecture at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and 4 of his faculty and 2 of my faculty, we developed a project to enhance the ability of older people in daycare settings. And this is for people who have physical as well as cognitive kinds of issues. And the project really led to the aesthetic transformation of the daycare center from just a place with bars and seats and desks to a place where there were rails with photographs, with supportive devices for everything from where you hung your hat to where you ate, and it just created this kind of environment. And the Progressive Architecture Award is probably one of the premier awards that you can get for that. I was not the lead on that. I was the mentor sponsoring Mark Rakitansky, who was one of Stanley Tigerman's students at the time.
Annual Authors Award, University of South Florida, 1995.
I'm sorry?
Annual Authors Award, University of South Florida.
Again, it's the university recognizes individuals who publish, and the provost takes very special pride in maintaining a library of books each year of the productions of faculty members.
Who's Who in Medicine and Healthcare, 1997. What's that one about?
That's a listing, again, based upon meeting certain credentials and certain levels of productivity in your field.
When you say certain credentials and certain levels of productivity, what exactly are you talking about?
The reference is really to the number and quality of one's publications, and it also rests upon your reputation from giving talks and other kinds of things. But it's really primarily representative of your national and international presence on the basis of your work.
Honors Undergraduate Medallion, University of South Florida.
That's another special one that really recognizes that I have taught in the Honors College for a number of years and developed the first aging courses ever given in the Honors College. And in fact, I'm getting another medallion because I'm just completing 22 years of teaching in the Honors College. And the courses have been extremely well received and well rated.
Founders Commemorative Award, National Alzheimer's Association, Chicago, 1998.
That was another celebration of the founder of the society.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part of your answer?
I'm sorry, that was another commemorative event celebrating the establishment of the Alzheimer's Association.
2010 USF Ambassador's Apple Polishing.
It's exactly what it is. It's an apple polishing award. Students vote for faculty who have made the biggest difference in their careers at USF. It is a special kind of commemorative, and the numbers of faculty who get those are relatively few.
And let's talk about articles, monographs, and books that have been published that you have authored or co-authored. How many do you think there are out there?
Probably in the neighborhood of 10 books, and probably with things that are now in press, maybe 180 to 85 articles.
And are any of those articles peer-reviewed?
Most of them are. Some of them are book chapters, but most of the articles are peer-reviewed.
And what do you mean by peer-reviewed?
Peer-reviewed refers to the process, whether it's in a grant or a publication where you submit something and your product, in this case a journal article, is reviewed anonymously by usually 2 to 3 to 4 individuals. And those individuals will make a decision about whether it's worthy of publication, being revised, and then published. There are different kinds of journals, but the only ones that I publish that are not peer-reviewed are ones that I specifically tailored for the public and the community so we could advance the knowledge of the public about aging issues and not just the professionals in the university.
Judge, at this time, without objection by the state, I move into evidence, what has been marked as Defense Exhibit Number 7, which is the CV of Dr. Cohen.
Okay, what exhibit number is that?
It was our Exhibit Number 7. We've pre-marked them. There may be some gaps, but we will be filling them up as we go along.
Well, they have to come in numerically,
Okay.
whichever way they come in. Which
This
one is
number
coming?
4 or 5? Madam Clerk is informing us. Number 4.
Looks like.
Now, you said a couple of times that you do what you do because it's necessary to educate students regarding aging. What do you mean by that? Why does doesn't a student know that people get older and they can see it on their own? Why do you have to educate them regarding that issue?
Students coming into the university as undergraduates have very little experience with aging. They barely learn what it's like to grow up and be friends with the opposite gender. They know aging through their grandparents, perhaps, or having cared for a sick parent or whatever, but their knowledge of aging is really non-existent. In fact, the deans were very surprised that students were flocking to the courses to take it. And the challenge here is to show them that there is a science to aging, that there is a clinical component to aging, that there is a societal mandate to further our knowledge of aging, and that there are a series of ethical issues and cultural issues with the growth of the population. It astounds them to know that, give data, at different times, but roughly now there are 15% of the population 65 and over. That's about 44 million Americans. By 2050, that number is going to almost double to be 25% of the population and 88 million people. So to them, it's a way of showing them that this is a major portion of the population, and someday they're going to join it, because the children of today are the aged of tomorrow, and the aged of today were the children of yesterday, and getting them to understand the developmental issues that they will be facing and our country will be facing, because the growth is going to continue to explode.
And when you say developmental issues, what is it that you're talking about?
We're talking about the biologic process, undergrad.
Let's talk about that for a moment. The biological process. What do you mean by that?
Again, to tie that into your previous question, the students get excited about biomedical issues or psychological issues, but they have no understanding of what happens to people actually post-adolescence and the issues that confront people as they go into emerging adulthood, the 18 to the 24, then adulthood, which goes to about 55, 60, and then looking at late life and understanding how genes can determine what happens to you as you grow older, that the education you get makes a difference in how you grow older, to describe to them the kinds of things they need to do today to keep from getting sick tomorrow. The health issues that will affect them in middle and later life can be directly tied to things that happen to them. Roughly 1/4 of adolescents have high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And these are issues that are critical to them growing older. So it's really taking them through the various biologic systems and helping them understand that people change at different rates. You don't necessarily grow old and grow sick, but as you grow old, the risk for disease increases. Impairments and disabilities, which keep you from functioning, become a higher risk issue. And even if you live life relatively healthy, the average American is going to spend 11 years frail before they die.
Is part of what you do to study the vulnerability of the elder population, people over 60?
Yes, study the vulnerability because that's a handle to understand how to build resilience and to help support people who have excess disability, will probably not get too much better, and to help them understand that process.
And when you say vulnerability, describe what it is you mean by that term.
Vulnerability has many, many meanings. Vulnerability refers on one level to your ability to function safely without getting hurt.
So let's talk about that particular aspect. Are you talking about physiological changes in the elder population?
Talking about physiologic changes, yes.
Okay. And when you say to function without getting hurt, what is it that you mean by that?
The older population, as I said, is at higher risk for a variety of physical and mental changes. They're at higher risk for chronic illness. They're at higher risk for excess disability, which means the vulnerabilities can't be compensated for easily. And it affects their frame of mind. So here we're talking about the ways that we can understand how to keep people from doing things that will hurt themselves. There's many older people who have chronic illnesses because of skeletal issues, muscular issues, changes in their organ systems. including the cardiovascular, endocrine systems, really don't know what they can do to take care of themselves. And there's a whole science which has grown up around this issue of geriatric medicine, and the number of well-known textbooks in geriatric medicine really take this issue to heart.
And can you name any of them today?
Yes, there's a Brocklehurst handbook of textbook of geriatric medicine and gerontology.
And how does that deal with the issue of vulnerability in the aged population?
That and many other textbooks really are providing the, and I think the Brocklehurst is in its 8th edition at this point, they lay out the changes that occur in aging, both the bio and the psycho and the social level, and they provide the basis for clinical care. What is it that a clinician has to do, whether that person is a social worker, nurse, physician, or rehabilitation therapist. So it's really laying out the science of the field. And there are other textbooks, and probably one of the most prominent is the Handbook of Physiology, Exercise, Health, and Aging by Michael Taylor, which really lays out very specifically the issues around exercise and maintenance of health in older people, from young ages, young old being those who are under 65, to the older population in their 80s and 90s. So it's really a comprehensive text.
Certainly he doesn't suggest that if one exercises, they aren't aging.
Pardon?
Certainly he doesn't suggest that if one is exercising, one is not aging.
Of course not.
What other studies in regard to the subject of vulnerability of the elderly and kind of realization of that vulnerability?
One of the most common changes with aging is the loss of muscular functioning, and that actually starts in the 40s, but progresses at a rapid rate as you get into your 60s and 70s and beyond. There's some very specific changes that make people vulnerable. Genes do have some role in how your muscles change, but with advancing age, there's significant loss of muscle mass. Muscles don't replicate themselves the way blood cells do, and skin cells do. So when you lose muscle mass, it's not going to be replaced. There are different kinds of muscle fibers. There are high twitch and low twitch. The high twitch one sends messages to the brain very, very quickly. With advancing age, the conduction velocity of nerves from muscles to the brain and back to the muscles slows down significantly. When people lose muscle mass, they lose different kinds of muscles, and muscle quality changes. And muscle quality refers to specific fibers, and that's actually a better indication of muscular strength than just mass. Other things that happen are different kinds of pain, back pain, spine pain, actually can change the way your brain responds to pain, which affects your ability to keep your balance and walk. So
I'm going to object to that testimony. That is far from a field. It's more along as a medical testimony. In fact, you might remember that we heard very similar testimony from Dr. Foley, who is in fact a medical doctor. She does not qualify to render that type of opinion or to make that type of testimony.
Judge, certainly as a PhD in the field of aging, she can rely on treatises and textbooks that she's read to form an opinion or to give testimony. And that's frankly what she's doing here.
She rendered a medical diagnosis.
I don't think she diagnosed anyone.
Oh,
I'm quoting a research paper.
Okay, and so explain what you were saying, then how do this physical degenerative process or physical inability to do what you did before as a younger person, how does that affect one's psychological makeup in terms of feelings of vulnerability?
It has a very dramatic effect, because when you think about having lost strength, having problems with balance, having more fat, which has replaced the muscle mass, weight gain, instability, coupled with other kinds of diseases, whether they're vascular or endocrine, like diabetes, makes life very, very difficult. The simple act of walking and the simple act of going up steps are affected. And if you have circulation problems and you've got decreased muscular coordination and muscle mass, it's very difficult to negotiate the environment, and you're at high risk for lots of things, the most common of which is falls. 30 to 50% of people over the age of 65 fall every year. And people who break a hip when they fall have a high likelihood of falling again and doing more serious damage. So these kinds of aging changes, coupled with other pathologic changes, impair the individual's ability to do everything from navigate their environment, from steps to getting in and out of bed, to pursue their hobbies, and to even walk up the curb of the sidewalk, because there's constant concern and fears of not just falling, but being hurt.
What about fears of the outside world and interacting with strangers and that sort of thing?
There's a literature that specifically looks at the vulnerabilities that people perceive who are older. And there are some gender differences. Women perceive being much less safe living in their communities because they're less able to protect themselves, to run away, so that the issues of vulnerability are perceptions of how safe am I in my home, how safe am I when I walk out on the street, how safe am I if someone comes and grabs my purse, and how safe am I if someone comes after me with a knife.
Is the aging population, the elderly, are they more susceptible to be the victim of crimes in the literature that you've studied?
The data depend upon age and sex and the type of crime. Older men are more likely to, well, first of all, older people aren't out running around the way younger people are. They're generally in their community in more subdued environments. So the fears really are around how safe am I in my home and my community. When it comes to burglaries, men are more likely to be attacked than women. So that and it depends on where you live. When you're in communities where there's a high crime rate, the fears of older people are significantly high, much higher than the young.
Now, let's talk about some of the publications that you've listed in your CV. Number 25, Eisdorfer and Cohen, 1980, the issue of biological and psychological deficits in the aging.
That was early in my career, was a review of the major kinds of changes which occur in the biologic system as well as the psychology of the system. So we're talking about everything from the organ changes that I've spoken about to changes in one's mood, one's affect, one's anxiety, one's fears, and one's ability to cope with the environment. So it was a review of what we knew at that time in 1985.
And were you able to correlate an increase in fear with a perspective that that person is no longer as physically able as they once
That's a theme that runs through the field. I mean, it's with degenerative changes. There are psychological effects which increase anxiety and concern. And the 1985 article was not so much dealing with the perceptions of older people as much as the later work that we did.
Eisendorfer and Co. in 1983, Health and Retirement, Retirement and Health, Background and Future Directions, Policy Issues in Work and Retirement.
That was, again, an early article which was examining the literature of how health impacts people's decisions to retire. And that is really one of the most prominent reasons that people leave the workforce when they're older.
Here's one from 2006, Older Adults and Terrorism, Brown, Cohen, and Colmayer.
That was a chapter, Bruce Bonger's first text on terrorism dealing with older people. I was Dr. Brown's mentor at the time, and we were examining the responses, the perceptions of fear, and the responses to fear, and interventions to deal with those fears of older people living in the community. This was post 9/11, and older people are extremely vulnerable when it comes to whether it's man-made or natural disasters, and the consequences can be everything from traumatic brain injury to death.
And are they more vulnerable because they're older?
Because they're older and they're impaired and unable to control their environment.
So an individual doesn't have to be in a wheelchair to feel that he or she is more vulnerable as an elder adult.
Not at all. The issue really has to do with whether the older person perceives something threatening, such as a terrorist attack, whether that occurs, and their inability to defend themselves or to take safe actions if a threat is occurring.
Okay, now, what did you do in this particular case? What sort of materials did you review for our office in Mr. Reeves' case?
A variety of materials. Went through the latest versions of the various premier textbooks, not just the Brocklehurst, but the Oxford Handbook of Geriatric Medicine, which is again in its 5th or 6th edition. Went through Chris Castle's classic textbook on geriatric medicine. William Hazard and Jeff Halter and some other co-editors have again a classic textbook in multiple editions, and each of these are really considered tomes in their field. I also reviewed a series of articles on the different kinds of physiologic vulnerabilities that older people have, and Michael Taylor's book on exercise physiology was one. Tim Doherty did a very nice analysis of sarcopenia and aging, and sarcopenia refers to the loss of muscle mass and its profound effect on one's ability to walk and move around and be safe. I also reviewed 2 very important documents that had to do with the importance of older people, even those with chronic illness and impaired, to do some exercise. And the American Association of Sports Medicine and the American Heart Association came out with a report in 2003, which was a summary of a panel's recommendations for what kinds of exercises should be done to promote the ability to locomote, navigate, the ability to stay healthy with cardiovascular disease or other kinds of things. There was another panel that came out, work by Nelson at the University of South Carolina, who did a public health panel report looking at exercise and healthy aging in public health. And there were a series of other articles that, journal articles that I looked at that point. I also reviewed the very important document that came out of the not the Institute of Medicine, but came out of the National Research Council, which is part of the national academies. There's the Academy of Engineering, there's the Institute of Medicine, as well as the National Academy of Sciences program. And that was specifically on elder abuse, risks, the impact, and what can be done about it. And the two editors of a huge panel of respected scientists and community leaders was led by very prominent Bob Wallace, who was chairman of epidemiology at the University of Iowa, and Richard Beasley, who was at the University of Virginia. And again, there was a panel of at least 50 to 60 people. This was a 2003 document that really covers the field pretty extensively.
And have you been qualified to testify as an expert in any court in the field of aging?
Yes.
And where would that be?
Been qualified to testify in terms of older people who have been financially exploited, abused, older people whose family members are contesting their wills, cases where competency is or capacity, which the scientists attest to, and a series of cases that deal with nursing home abuse and neglect, and a number of cases dealing with suicide and the use of medications, and other cases dealing with situations where caregivers have killed care recipients and did not kill themselves and go through the legal system.
None of that has anything to do, it seems, with the issue of vulnerability and an elder citizen perceiving his or her vulnerability. Would you agree with me on that?
I don't think I would agree with you when it comes to the financial exploitation.
Okay. And tell me how that's related.
Individuals who are at risk for abuse, and I'll give you the numbers. 1 in 10 Americans over the age of 65 suffer some kind of abuse, from psychological to financial to physical to sexual abuse. And the numbers aren't exactly known because not everybody reports it. But people who are being abused are quite frequently afraid of what's happening to them, so that the issues of vulnerability and recognition are vulnerable, and recognizing they have no control to get out of the situation.
And does that have with that elder person's ability to perceive a situation and make a decision on what to do based on his or her perception?
Hopefully, they can do something about it, but if I understand your question, would you repeat it, just to make sure I
I
understand?
don't think I can repeat it.
If I understand, okay. If I understood it, it's that the older person who's in a potentially threatening situation where they're being hit, they're being neglected, family members are taking money from them, recognize that they're vulnerable and threatened, but they also recognize that they're embarrassed because it may be a family member. They also know there's very little they can do about it, particularly if they're constrained by multiple impairments and disability.
Okay. Now, in this case, you interviewed Mr. Reeves, correct?
Yes.
And tell us about that interview. Where did that take place?
Yeah, at this time, I would object to her describing or going into the interview of Mr. Reeves.
All right, and
There's some additional argument if you want it, but I mean, that's fine.
She's not going to say what Mr. Reeves said. She's just going to say she interviewed.
What's your,
Well, what Mr. Reeves said. There's certain nuances that may come in play, Judge, but we need to ferret those out.
all right, for purposes of the moment, I'll overrule and.
Okay. So did you interview Mr. Reeves?
Yes, I did.
And where did that take place?
That took place in your law offices.
And how long did that interview last?
An hour and a half plus.
Now, let me ask you a hypothetical. If an individual was healthy and robust when he was younger, and over the years suffered degenerative changes to his body, and that person had some kind of cognitive recognition of those degenerative changes, would that person perceive his own vulnerability in a one-on-one stressful situation?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the hypothetical, assuming facts not into evidence. The specific part that is not in evidence that he had cognitive awareness of those medical issues. I know we've had the testimony from Dr. Foley, but he embellished upon that in that hypothetical because we have no testimony whatsoever as to exactly what and to what extent Mr. Reeves had any knowledge of any of this. So I object to the form of the question for that very limited purpose when he added cognitive recognition, because we've had no testimony as of yet of that.
That's the very nature of a hypothetical. He doesn't want me to ask if she formed an opinion based on Mr. Reeves' interview. I know he doesn't want me to ask that, so I'm asking a hypothetical. I'll change the hypothetical a little bit if it'll make the prosecutor more comfortable. Let me ask it to you this way, Dr. Cohen. If, and this is a hypothetical, if I'm a person who was very active through my 40s and through my 50s, then as I got to be 50, 60, and 70, all of a sudden I wake up in the morning and my knees hurt a little bit. I wake up in the morning and I can't ride my bike like I used to. I wake up in the morning and I can't run like I used to. I wake up in the morning and I'm having trouble with my hands, my joints, my shoulder hurts, my feet hurt, my back hurts. And I realize this because I'm going through this. And now I'm 70. And I've been through it. I've been healthy, I've been okay, and now I'm getting a little weaker as I go. And I realize these things are happening to me because I feel them every day. Am I a person, as a 70-something-year-old, as an elder citizen, am I somebody who is going to be, first let me ask you this way, is that a person that's going to be more vulnerable than like a 40-year-old?
Yes.
Well,
And
excuse me, Judge, I object. We're talking about more vulnerable than what? I mean, we have to have a hypothetical that's based on the facts that are in evidence. So when we talk about more vulnerable, we haven't talked about vulnerable as to what? Vulnerable stepping out of the shower and slipping and falling, twisting my knee when I get out of my car. I mean, more vulnerable is so broad, how are we supposed to know what the answer is?
do you want me to ask if, more vulnerable if I'm sitting in a movie theater and a 6'4" guy attacks me? I'll be happy to ask that. Okay. Now I'm a 70-something.
Hopefully that was tongue-in-cheek.
I'm a 70-something-year-old. And I'm in a quiet place. Or maybe a noisy place. Or a dark place. But I'm seated. And somebody who doesn't appear to me to have any sort of maladies, appears perfectly healthy, and is larger than me, if they're coming after me and attacking me, is it reasonable for me, as a 70-year-old, describing what I did to you, is it reasonable for me to perceive my own vulnerability?
Your Honor, again, I'm going to object because we don't have any of those facts and evidence. And what you've heard from Dr. Cohen is her ability and her research deals with vulnerability. And if you listen carefully to what she said her research was, it was vulnerability so that society would recognize the vulnerability so industries and cottage industries could be set up in order to take care of those individuals so they wouldn't hurt themselves. That's what her research is about. That's what she has testified to. And now we're adding, all of a sudden we got people coming at them and people are going to attack them. She's never, ever, ever indicated there's any research in which she has done that. It's only recognizing the elderly are vulnerable, and society has to recognize that because we're becoming an older society and we need to develop the industry in order to take care of them. That's her research. And how it applies to this particular case, I fail to understand.
You know, just like somebody inventing a seatbelt and saying they can't talk about the nylon that they used to invent it. She's talking about her research. She's talking about certainly the great breadth of literature. She's mentioned several authors that she's depending on. She's been doing this for 40 years. What the prosecutor says is true. That's part of what she does. But she's doing something else here, and she's trying to educate the public for other reasons too. Not just so somebody doesn't slip and fall in a nursing home because she's designed a shower rack or a non-slip floor, but it's so that society becomes aware that older people are more vulnerable and they shouldn't be picked on by other people that are bigger, stronger, and younger, because that part of society also has a responsibility. And I think that's what Dr. Cohen is also trying to educate the public and these students on. So that's my argument, Judge.
All right. Mr. Martin's objection really rings to me to be a Daubert-type objection. At least that's kind of what I'm hearing. I'm going to overrule at this point for reasons we've already discussed, and any ruling I make as to that issue, is for the purposes of this hearing. And as far as hearing further testimony and the proffers, I'm not going to make I'm not going to be held to the same exact procedure should we have further proceedings such as a jury trial in this case. We'll have to readdress any issues such as that again. Obviously, I'm the trier of fact here for Daubert Fry determination, so we're going to proceed in the manner that we indicated previously. So I'm going to overrule.
Thank you, Judge.
Good. So your answer was, would an individual in that situation be vulnerable, number one?
Yes, and it goes right to the heart of Michael Taylor's analysis of physiologic changes with aging. There are 4 different kinds. There's the ones that are total, like high hearing, vision at some point. Then there are those that are structural, like the muscle mass. Then there's changes in efficiency, like the conduction velocity that I referred to with the nerve-brain connection. And the 4th is the incapacity to respond to highly stressful situations.
And what do you mean by that?
Referring to the fact that it's not just the muscles that are changing, that there's systemic changes, and the various parts of the body work together so that you can be healthy or function. And what happens is that the 4th kind of change really refers to the fact that the system, the body system, can't mobilize itself as efficiently or as quickly to respond to stress.
Thank you. May I have a moment?
Evening.
I don't have any further questions of Dr. Cohen. Thank you.
That's a favor of the court. Could we take 5 minutes and let Mr. Garcia and I have a discussion somewhere in private? I think then I'll know how I want to proceed based on the court ruling and based on the testimony that we've heard. I may have a certain direction that I want to go, and I think a 5-minute break would help me with that, and I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay. I'll allow that.
Thank you, Judge,
let's
very much.
take 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Do-
That's it. I'm going to reserve.
I think what we
Just as
decided
being-
tonight is that you'll take it under advisement. You'll make a determination as whether or not your initial role as a judge and how you're going to fulfill that, as whether or not be admissible. Then once you make that determination, then as the trier of fact, you'll apply the rules as a trier of fact, and you, at your own discretion, can either accept or reject your testimony, just like any other trier of fact would.
Correct.
Okay.
And as
That's
far-
acceptable to the state.
As far as further, my only concern with reserving on that is that I don't want that to be an open invitation for more submissions by either side on that issue at this point.
No.
I'm good with that, and we will have a little bit more discussion as to what's the appropriate analysis in light of the fact that the Supreme's just ruled Friday. But in my brief overview of it, it appears that we fall back to Fry, so.
Which is an easier standard.
Correct. So.
Colleagues are different on that, so I don't know. But hopefully in a week, we'll have some guidance.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
Either way, I'm going to reserve
Thank you, Judge.
as to that. All
Thank you.
right, so no further cross? or
No, ma'am, I'm
cross-
going to rely on my motion
All right,
and then let you decide
okay.
as we discussed.
May this witness be released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Dr. Cohen, you're free to go. Thank you. Who's your next witness?
The next witness is Gino Sassani. He should be outside.
And Mr. Garcia, you had requested the ability to talk
Judge,
to
for the
that.
record, during the lunch, Mr. Shaw gave me his phone number, so I was able to talk to him.
Okay.
So I know he's going to testify too.
Okay, very good. Please make sure he spells, the spelling of the witness's name is done for the record.
I'll make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Judge, can we approach while the witness comes forward, please?
Do we have to approach?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, please, if you don't mind.
Just stay seated and get in.